And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hist, here, back with another off-season supporter series. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our chat with some fantastic female footy supporters. And before we get going on my co-host, I know any of you that are watching the YouTube video, you're going, wait, where's the person that he's talking to? Just really quickly for a heads up, is that I've been requested to let my interviewee today have a little bit of anonymity due to some issues. So we will respect that because I never want somebody to feel uncomfortable, but I wanted to have a chat. So joining me today from Brisbane when it comes to it, we have Amanda hopping on. Amanda, it is great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Johnny. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, so before we get into the footy, as we said, we are a footy podcast. We talk football. I like finding out just the littlest bit about the person that I'm talking with. So if you could, Amanda, share with us just the littlest bit about yourself outside of the game of football.
Okay. Well, I am a mum of two children. I have a 17-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter who are both Mad D's supporters as well, probably against their will, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm also a teacher, and I do live in Brisbane, probably the hottest city in Australia right now. But yes, it's growing up here. It's been an interesting adventure in terms of football and fandom and that kind of thing. So I come from a sporting family. We played a lot of sports as kids. We watched a lot of sports. We're exposed to a lot of different sports as well. So yeah, that's been one of the things that I love. And now, obviously, being a parent, watching my kids play the sports they want to play and watch all sorts of different sports as well. So pretty sporting family.
But you are a person after my own heart because I love sport myself. That is absolutely fantastic. But as we said, we are a footy podcast. We want to
Yes.
talk footy, even though I must admit a couple of times on this show I have talked about the cricket. So, and since the last time we've had a podcast on, the Aussies have won the Ashes. Congratulations,
Yes.
Australians. Now back to the football. Reel it in,
Yes.
coach. So let's hop into it again. This is a footy show, so I have to ask Amanda, what is your favorite thing about the sport of football?
Oh, look, football, I always liken to theatre, really. Live sport in particular, going to a game, you just never know what's going to happen. And football, as a sport, there's always something happening. There's always, it's not just the person with the ball, it's the behind the play, what's happening in front of the play. There's always something going on to sort of keep you focused. So, yeah, I think that live sport, the theatre of it. And there's so much emotion in the game. You've got your two tribes, and it's a real, it's a real thing with sport. You give your all to your team. You're full blown supporter, and there's always going to be a winner and a loser, and people just get very emotional about sport, especially in this country. I think there's a lot of even sports people are put up on pedestals here. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But yeah, I just love the theatre of sport.
Mhm. Yeah, no, 100% with you on that one. And so many theatrical parts of football and so many different things to go through. So no, 100% with you on
Mm.
that one. So I love this question because again, you have a wealth of sport knowledge and you love your sport. So I want you to go back into the annals, go back into the memory a bit.
Way
Earliest
back.
football memory.
Earliest football memory. Well, I guess living in Brisbane, we didn't have a lot of exposure to football itself, Aussie rules football. But the earliest memories that I have are of watching the football with my dad on a Saturday afternoon. We would get one game in Brisbane, and it would normally be Essendon or Hawthorn or Collingwood, the big name clubs,
Hmm.
and just listening to all of those voices doing the commentary. And even now, when they have old games on Foxtel and you switch it on, and it just takes you straight back there to that Saturday afternoon, watching the game and hearing those voices. And but yeah, that's probably my earliest memory of football. Yeah, the Saturday afternoon games, and they were always a big game, and at the MCG and 90,000 people, and think, oh, one day I'm going to get there and watch a game myself. So
Well, hopefully very, very soon. So, for those that are paying attention, she has said who her club is, but I will ask the question anyways, just to stay on everything I'm going. So, Amanda, though you were in Brisbane, you're not a Brisbane supporter. So, who is your
no,
club and how did you come to support them?
my club is the Melbourne Demons. It's a very unusual pairing, someone who lives in Brisbane and follows Melbourne. I get asked this question a lot. As I said, we were a sporting family growing up. And it's funny because my dad moved over from Italy when he was a young boy.
Mhm.
And as he was growing up in Sydney, him and his brothers used to play Aussie rules as they got into their late teenage years. My dad was actually quite a good football player. So I guess in some ways it was always in my blood. He met my mum in Sydney, and then when I was born, moved up to Brisbane. So they were both, they grew up with Aussie rules football in Sydney. And then obviously coming to Brisbane, there was no Aussie rules. You were laughed at if you liked Aussie rules football up here. And then, so my mum became a Lions supporter as the years went on. My dad started off as Collingwood, but then he jumped ship when they weren't doing very well and he became an Essendon supporter. So, so because he was Essendon, my mum was Lions, we all sort of gravitated towards a different team. So my mum, in her wisdom, decided to take us all to the MCG to see some live football. This was in the late 90s, showing my age a little bit here. And so the team she loved, the Lions, were playing, just happened to be playing the Melbourne Demons this day, this grey August day at the MCG with about, I don't know, 15 people there. And then was watching the game, was kind of on the fence whether I was going to be a Lions supporter or not. And then Michael Voss was in the middle punching on with this Melbourne player. And I'm thinking, who is that? Who's taking on this champion player in Michael Voss? Who would have the guts to do something like that? And it was Shane Woden. So I thought, well, the name's a bit odd and I've not heard that name before. But if he's got, the guts to take on Michael Voss, then he must be okay. So then the more the game went on, I thought, oh, this team are all right. They look okay. So we left the MCG. I bought a Shane Woden badge. That was my first piece of Aussie Rules memorabilia. And then obviously year 2000, they made the grand final. So I'm thinking, wow, I've really landed, great team here. We've made the grand final. How good's footy? And then we got beaten by Essendon. And then it all just sort of went a bit downhill from there. So, but I have stuck fat with my team. The loyalty has been there. My children are now Demon supporters as well. They were both members when I was pregnant with them. So they didn't really have a choice. It was my right as a parent to brainwash them. So, um, but yeah, I guess the Aussie rules bug has always been in our blood, I suppose. So yeah,
Well, I will say this. Don't say brainwash. You encourage them in a direction.
steer
Let's go
them.
like that.
Yeah,
I don't like saying brainwashing because when it comes to it, there's subtle. There's the subtle push and then there's the obvious push. Like I know I've talked to
yes,
a few like an Essendon supporter who I talked to at one time. Literally, his father told him, "You're going to be an Essendon supporter, or you're going to be homeless." So I
yes,
love that the push for the
yes,
fans. So I'm actually going to go off that is that was there ever I'm going to test you the mother instincts of you here because my next
okay,
question is normally is it a family thing, but as you said your dad jumped from Collingwood to Essendon,
yes,
which some people would say, well, he's not a true Aussie. Well, he was from Italy, so
yes,
we will have some fun
that's
with that.
right.
Your mom is a Brisbane supporter. As you said, you became a D supporter. So it isn't a family situation. So I'll ask this of you: is that when it came to it, have your children ever pushed and maybe thought about being fans, or have they always been D supporters that you got them early and that they've only been D supporters?
Well, when they were very young, obviously we didn't, living in Brisbane, we don't get many games up here that I can take them
Mhm.
to. So we would get maybe one game a year. But then it would be about, getting them to the game and just showing them our team. But there was, they didn't really question it even when they were very young, which is a good thing. Um, then obviously, as we were getting very in the lean years where things were so bad, we were losing all the time, and we would go to the Gabba and you know wonder how many goals we were going to lose by, and things like that. And I really, even a couple of years before what happened in 2021, I said to them both, I said, if you don't want to support the D's anymore, then you can choose a different team, or it would break my heart, but you could go and support someone different. But they haven't. They've stuck with them. So, but the club itself are so great with including children in everything that they do anyway. So I think all of those other things, the extra things that they do, the really cool things they get in their membership packs and all of that sort of thing, I think have sort of kept them red and blue, which is really happy, makes me really proud. Maybe when they're older, they might switch, but I hope not. I hope that they don't.
Well, I love it that they're able to do that. That's fantastic. So my next question, you've
Yeah.
kind of already answered, is the first club item that you were given or bought. So I'm going to go past it since you already
Yep.
discussed it. So I move on
Yep.
to this because we were kind of discussing this off mic a little bit. Is that my next question is about fandom. And again, as I've said
Mm-hmm.
many times on the podcast, I believe fandom is the most unique thing in the world because nobody does it exactly the same. There's not a single person in the
Yep.
world, no matter what sport that you watch, that will fandom exactly like another. There's always little differences,
Yep.
whether it's everything in their life, whether it's just this tiny fragment, it doesn't matter. I still consider you're a fan, even if you
Mm.
watch one game a year, you're a fan. That's
Yes.
all
Yep.
that
Yep.
matters. So I have to ask this of you, Amanda. Describe your fandom of the Melbourne Demons for me.
Oh, well, it's kind of, well, obviously very seasonal, and being in Brisbane, being away from the fishbowl of Melbourne and not having all of that saturated media is a good thing when we're not doing so well. Um, but I think it's an emotional thing. You get attached to the team, you get attached to the players. You think you I think my son gave me a quote the other day where he said, it's almost time to let, men who wear our team colors decide our fate for the next 6 months and decide our mood and how we're going to feel and things like that. Because it feels really personal when you're watching your team play. If you watch them lose on a weekend, your whole weekend's shot. If they
Hmm.
win, then you want to go out and, celebrate. But I try not to get too emotional just for the kids' sake. It's only a game of football, except it means a whole lot more than that.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, we've had tears, we've had plenty of tears over this team over the years. So I would say it's more of an emotional thing for me, fandom. It's yeah, it's the team that you invest in. You pay your membership, you buy your merch. You want to get some kind of return, and it's great to go to the games and meet the players afterwards or whatever. But
mhm.
it's a very emotional, yeah, very emotional thing.
Yep. Oh, trust me, I've had some fans that they go to the ground and they're nervous and they can't eat. They can't eat.
Oh
They have
yeah,
to they can only have a drink and they're sitting there, they're pacing the walls. I get
yep,
it. There's an emotional attachment and again, to each his own. There are some people that I mean everything is wrapped up in it. And then I know people that literally 5 minutes after the game is over, you'd have no idea whether they won or lost. You'd have no
yeah,
idea because they can let it go. And
yeah.
as much as I say I can do that, there are times that I can't. No matter
Of
what sport I'm
course,
watching, I'll sit there like my gridiron football team. If they lose on Saturday, it takes me an hour before I can kind of
yeah.
fully. Like I
Yes.
try not to, like
Re-engage. Yes.
especially if they've lost a close one. I 100% with you. And again, like I said, I will never tell a fan that they're fanning wrong because again,
Yeah,
everybody invests differently. Everybody
of
handles it
course.
differently. Everybody
Yeah,
has the emotional, the connection to their team in
yeah,
so many different ways. So I will never tell a fan that they're wrong. I will always respect them and learn from
yeah,
them to be
yeah.
a fan in any way because you never know when something that a fan does that might actually be good for you to do yourself. So
That's right. Yeah,
as I
absolutely.
as I've said, this podcast series is about female fans, and again, I'm a bloke, so I will never experience that. And I have many a female fan, and I've seen how things are, how I've heard experiences, I've heard of everything like that. So I want to ask you this, Amanda: do you feel you're treated differently as a female fan compared to your male counterparts?
It's an interesting question because, like I said, I've grown up in a sporting family. I've got three brothers. We have loads of discussions all the time about sport. And, they value my opinion as I value theirs. And I think with social media the way that it is these days, I think women who, I mean, I certainly know a lot of strong women who are, fanatical about their team, not
Hmm.
just, D's fans, but lots of different club supporters. And I think sometimes even myself, I've been certainly had my share of people coming back at me with, oh, what would you know, or
Hmm.
do you understand the game, or you can't say that, or whatever. Even though your opinions are valid and you're asking genuine questions, but you do get shouted down a little bit, I think, in being a female. And I think with the rise of the AFLW and more prominence of that competition, I mean, there's room for everybody in football. It should be an inclusive game. It should include everyone, regardless, who you support, what you look like, and all of that kind of thing. And there is also room for everyone to have an opinion, as long as you're doing it in a respectful way. As
Hmm.
long as you're not going out to abuse someone or, denigrate someone or, I think everyone's opinion is valid. And sometimes, yeah, as a female population, I think we do get shouted down a little bit because, oh, you don't know anything about football. And
Hmm.
no one knows really everyone's background. I mean, there's lots of women who've been football fans since birth. Like my daughter's one, she's been a D supporter even before she was born, before she even knew how to talk. So,
Hmm.
and I like to think when she's older, she will be able to hold her own in arguments and things like that. But yeah, I think it's improving, but I think social media hasn't really done us any favors, to be perfectly honest.
I've
But
I will say this: social media is not real life. So
yeah,
I take social media a little bit with a grain of salt
yes,
because as great as it is to contact, I mean, like I said, I will pull the curtain back for a lot of people. A lot of the people that I'm talking with on my shows are people I've met through social media. Uh,
yeah.
I've never met many of these people in person
Mm,
ever. But the
mm.
thing though is that as good as social media is connecting intercontinental people, I mean, me sitting here in Des
Yes.
Moines, Iowa, nearly 6 in the morning, I'm talking with a person in Brisbane, Australia.
Yeah.
As great as it is, it can be this toxic thing because a person can sit behind a computer screen and literally
Mm.
say whatever they want without
Yep.
consequence.
Yep.
It is one of those. So I agree that it has made the female experience for fans, especially on social media, that much more difficult because you
Mm.
get, pardon my French, a misogynistic jerk that
Yeah.
just feels like because he has certain chromosomes that he just knows better.
That's
And
right.
most of the time, this person doesn't know better. Like
That's right.
it's one of those, I've said it on a few episodes. Like absolutely love, and now I'm totally forgetting her name, Kate McCarthy. I love
Yes.
her to death
Yep.
because she's very knowledgeable about the sport of football,
Yeah.
but she's
Yep.
got a quick tongue and she is not afraid to put people in their places. I
Mm.
absolutely love that about her because
Yeah.
Daisy Pierce knows football, but she's not on social.
Yeah,
She's
she's
not as
brilliant.
big on
Yep.
social media.
Yep.
She very much is a person that she's in front of the camera. She does her work, and then there's anonymity to her a little bit when it
Mm.
comes to it. But
Yeah.
Kate McCarthy is on social media. She has a very good social media presence, and like I said, sharp tongue, very witty,
Mm.
very intelligent football mind. I mean, you don't get talked about being a potential coach of an AFLW team if you don't have a good football mind.
That's right.
So the
Exactly.
fact that she has been linked with several teams in the AFLW for their coaching opportunity shows you
Mm.
how good a football mind she has and the
Yeah,
respect that she
absolutely.
has in the
Yep.
football world. So that's one of those I absolutely love. But what I love about social media when it comes to it is I get to see the footy experiences. I get to see discussions amongst people. Like I said,
Yeah.
I have a few that I know of that are very, very active on social media, and they're not afraid to stand up for what they do.
Mm.
And I applaud them for kind of
Yes.
taking some of these, shall we say, nitwits to the
Mm.
woodshed because they
Yep.
can, and
Yep.
I absolutely love it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
now that we've had our knuckle dragger moment, let's go back to positive. I want to ask this of you again. You have years of watching the D's. Again, you've been to live events. So if you could say that I'm talking to a young D's lady who wants to go to the game, but they want to enjoy the experience. They don't want to have to worry about the drunk. What would
Yeah.
you say is some advice for them to enjoy the experience of going to the football?
Oh, look, I think choosing the right people to go with is really helpful. If someone knows, if someone's just starting out with the game, it's good to have someone that can explain the rules to you as you go. Otherwise, it can be a bit confusing when you're
Mhm.
first starting out. But I've never once felt unsafe at a football ground. I've seen quite a few games. Obviously, I've been seen quite a few here in Brisbane. I've been to Melbourne, I've been to Sydney, I've been to Adelaide. Um, I think generally speaking, crowds are pretty well behaved, and everyone's just there for the footy. So if my advice would probably be to just soak it up, to enjoy the atmosphere, because like I said earlier, it's live theatre that you're watching. There's always something to keep an eye on or watch out for or something. So I would say, it's becoming more of a, especially with the AFLW games, that's, you know, a,
Mhm.
it's completely, well, not completely different, but it is a different energy, I suppose, at an AFLW game compared to a men's game.
I
So,
will say I think it is completely different because there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much more respect
I
and
think, yeah,
appreciation between the
yeah,
fan bases. There are rivalries. I mean Adelaide and Brisbane is a rivalry, but even
yep,
when I talk with Crows fans and Lions supporters who go to those games, there is still so much respect between the fan
yeah,
bases because
yeah,
there's a lot of similarities, especially because
yep.
it's is so inclusive. I will say I think it is different purely on I think the fan experience and the fan bases
Oh, yeah,
are
yeah,
much more respectful in the W space
yeah,
than they are in the men's because the men's there is that still that animosity among some of the clubs. You've got
yep,
centuries worth of play between each other.
yes,
There's
yes,
disdain between each other. Where in the women's space, I think there's so much love between the players because they know that they're all supporting
yeah,
players that again the inclusivity of the
yes,
game in W
yep,
does make the environment a lot different. Just
yeah,
everything that
yep,
I've like I said, I've talked with fans that have been to men's games, I've talked with fans that have been to women's games, and it is night and day when it comes to respect, when it comes
yeah,
to understanding amongst the fan bases, and when it comes to the loyalty to the players. There's a
oh,
little bit
yeah,
it's a little bit different,
yeah,
but I agree with you. The game isn't different, but it's just I think the fan
yeah.
atmosphere is there is a difference.
I think you're right. I think you get always going to get your little pockets of supporters at certain games with certain big clubs that are going to
Yep, I
have
agree.
issues with everyone and everything. So I mean, I've been at the MCG with my daughter. We played a big name club and we lost, and she was crying after the game, and two of the opposition supporters were pointing at her and laughing as we walked out. And I won't say who it was, but and I get that. Like these were grown men, and I just thought they're carrying on like,
That's
it's,
I will disagree. Those aren't grown men. Those are boys in men's
well,
bodies.
I was going to say they look like grown men. Obviously, they weren't the way they behaved, but
100%.
yeah. So that was obviously disappointing. But I've never felt, unsafe at the football before. So, and I hope that that stays that way. Like I hope that it's always a safe place for everyone to go to.
No, 100. I'm 100% with you. And I think it is changing. I think there's much
Mm,
more there is more respect. I think the hatred that is brought in, I think is dialing down a little bit. I
mm,
think some society changes have helped, but there's still pockets in the men game that still want to hold on to
yes.
some of the old ways.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're still seeing it. We won't go into individual little things on that because I don't want to make the podcast 2 hours. But
Mm.
I've always been one where it's like I think it is changing. It's
Yes.
slow. It's gonna be slow
Of course.
purely on the fact that there are a lot of men out there that don't want to change the game. They want the game to be
Yeah.
exactly the way they knew it back in the 70s,
Yep.
which, I mean,
Yep.
we're not living in the 1970s anymore. The society and the world has changed. So,
Yes.
again,
Yep.
I will never bash them as a fan. As a person and as an individual is
Yeah.
where I will go after it
Yes.
because give a little bit of respect. If you were so low as to get on a 7-year-old child and
Mm.
laugh at a 7-year-old kid for crying
Yeah.
because their team lost,
That's
that
right.
is pretty, pardon my French, gutless. That is
Yeah.
really, really gutless. And I
Yeah.
question your ability to be a human being because of
Yeah.
that. Because
Exactly.
we've all, I mean, when you were a 7-year-old child and something disappointed you and you had tears, do you think you would have appreciated some 30-year-old nitwit
Yeah.
laughing at you?
That's
Come on,
right.
pull your
That's
head
right.
in.
I know.
Come on. So,
I know.
all right, we'll go away from the negative. Let's not even
Okay.
go on that. So,
No, all good.
let's go hopefully to some good memories. As you said, the first ever, as you said, the Woden game was the first game you ever attended. Um, was that in Brisbane or was that in Melbourne?
That
I
was in
think
Melbourne. We went
MCG.
to Melbourne and saw them play at the MCG. We did go to a game back in 91, I think
Okay,
it was, at the Gabba when they used to have a dog track around the outside of
I've
the
heard about that. Yep.
of the oval. And we went to a game there. They did an exhibition game to see what the interest was like. Because, like I said, in Brisbane, Aussie rules wasn't a thing. And obviously, they
Mhm.
had the Brisbane Bears, they were more like a gimmick kind of club. And
I've
so
heard of
we
that.
got to see, yeah, we got to see the Brisbane Bears play this exhibition game. But all I remember from that game is a guy yelling out because they obviously the year before was 1990 when Collingwood and Essendon played off in the grand final. And I think that his call was who kicked 5 goals in a grand final. And I think that was Essendon. I think Collingwood won, I think. And that's where it forced my dad to jump ship, I think, after Collingwood got beaten soundly. But yeah, we got to sit on the wall near the dog track and watch this game of footy on this, patchy grass that was, I don't have a lot of memories from that game, but that was yeah, because Brisbane were like a joke back then. They played at Carrara. They didn't play in Brisbane. They got Warwick Kappa there at one stage, and it was just they were trying to grow the game here in Brisbane, but it just wasn't going very well. So that was probably my first official game, if you'd like to call it that, I suppose, back in '91. But I always say my first real game was '99 when I saw the D's and fell in love with them. So
Well, hey, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, how your passion starts really is kind of that thing.
yeah.
It's like asking me, like I said, like I told you, like I said off mic. I said I can't even remember the first game I've ever seen. I cannot
Oh
remember because
wow.
I was 8 years old on the television,
Yeah.
so I have no idea
Yeah.
who was playing in it. All I know is my father woke me up at 2 in the morning to show me, and I was fascinated by this sport.
Yeah.
And again, I had no idea that 20 years later I would be playing it. I would be absolutely hooked in it. So it's the
Yeah, I
weirdest,
love that.
it's the
I
crazy
love that.
journey that is. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to my next question, and this is one of my favorite questions because as a parent that you are, I
Yes.
love this lean in how I do is that favorite is that picking a favorite player at the club sometimes it's like picking your favorite child. You
Yes.
don't want to admit that you do it, but you might do it. So I'm going to ask this. Do you have a favorite player favorite player from the D's in the past and a favorite player currently on the D's list?
Well, my favorite player from the past was obviously Shane Woewode, and
Woden, yeah.
he was my main reason for liking the D's. And then he became the Brownlow medalist in 2000, which was super exciting. I thought I'd, found this diamond in the rough kind of thing. And now he's the Brownlow medalist. But I did love watching David Neitz play, like a proper full forward who knew how to kick goals. And
Hmm.
that's traditionally part of the game that I love so much, Tony Lockett and all of those kind of big full forwards. Currently, I have to say my favorite player is Ed Langdon. He's been my favorite for a um, number of years. If anyone has seen my tweets, it's probably
Hmm.
fangirling a little bit over Ed, but it's hard to not like Max. Like it's hard not to admire what he's done for the club, how he's held the club together and become this, colossal leader. It's certainly going to be a sad day when he hangs up his boots. I think there's going to be a
Hmm.
lot of not just grown women, but grown men crying that day. He's just been
Hmm.
such an inspiration to the club. But again, loving, what Cozzy brings and, the
Hmm.
younger players, Harvey Langford. It's exciting to see what's coming up as well. So, but yeah, hard to go past. Ed's my ultimate favorite, but Max is well up there. So,
Well,
yeah,
I will say this as a non-D supporter. It'll be sad when Max goes because
yeah,
he's such a class act.
yep,
He's such the ultimate captain because
yep,
he's respectful, he's understanding, he's appreciative, and again, he's had such a crazy career arc himself, having to deal with all of the knee injuries that he did, and then having his moments of success as he's
yes,
gotten older. You can't not cheer for him. Like
yeah, that's right.
you cannot not barrack for Max Khan. Again, he's just
Yeah,
an
yep,
incredible human being, such a kind individual. Every interview that I've had, he's respectful, he's
yeah,
classy, intelligent, well spoken. So
yep,
100% with you. It'll be a sad day when he retires,
yeah,
not only for the ruck position
yeah,
because they'll
that's
lose a
right.
great, but just
Yeah,
the class act that is Max Gorn. So
yeah,
I'm 100% with you. I do not want
yeah,
that day to come. I know it's probably coming sooner rather than later. And again,
yeah.
I'm
It's
not wishing that.
no, no, of
I
course
want
not.
Max to be there as long as he possibly can be healthy and be
Yes,
impactful
that's exactly
100%.
right.
But
Yeah,
I know
he's such
his
a lovely person. Even, and we've been the D's used to come up to Maroochydore up on the Sunshine Coast
Mhm.
to do their training camps. And I think my daughter was about 3 at the time, and she got a little Max Gorn figurine from the club as part of her membership. And so all the kids were lining up to get autographs from the players. They were all behind this big long table. And she just had enough of waiting in the line. So she just went behind the desk to where Max was and just tapped him on the arm and showed him the little Max. And he just stopped what he was doing and just spent, a few minutes talking to her. And, he signed the little figurine and he just, had a really lovely chat with her. And he was just, he didn't have to do that. And
Mhm.
he's always just been so good with all the kids. And, he really is, such a role model. And yeah, we've been lucky to have him for this long. So yeah,
One of my favorite D's is Max Con. Like I said,
yeah,
I've heard him on interviews. I know he comes in and does like a twice weekly on on the breakfast show there, and again, so well spoken, so
yeah,
classy, so
yep,
respectful, and he never
agree.
talks out of turn. He's very respectful to his opponents, and
Yes,
just just a kind human being. You just got to, you
Yeah,
can't not love him. You just
absolutely.
want to give him a
Yes,
cuddle.
I know. Well, like my daughter did that day. She just wanted to go and spend time with him. So
Oh, absolutely. Well, hey, there are far worse that she could have picked. There's far worse that she could have
exactly.
picked. So, all right,
Exactly.
let's have some fun with this. And one of the ones I love this question because it brings back so many good memories, so many good memories. Most memorable moment so far as a D
Oh,
supporter.
well, with the exception of what happened in, grand final week of
Yeah, you can use
2021.
that if you want. It's a moment.
Well, I love that, there was just so many good moments in that game. But
Hmm.
leading up to that, that very last game where we played Geelong down at Cardinia Park, and there was no crowd because it was COVID, and we were down by like 40 points or something in that game. And I remember saying to my son, "Oh, this is it. We're done. It's over," kind of thing. And he goes, "No, no, I think we've got a chance here." I'm like, "No, no." Anyway, as we kept kicking goals and coming back, and then Max had to kick the winning goal after the siren. Him kicking that goal then gave us the 4 points, put us in front, obviously, and then we won the minor premiership. So that probably for me was like such a pivotal moment, like for our club as well. It was almost
Hmm.
like we'd been down for so long, and these supporters are renowned for being, negative all the time, and woe is us, and all that kind of thing. But it was that moment, I think, so many of us started to believe we could actually do something. We could actually, win this premiership. We could actually have a chance of getting there. So I think in terms of really significant moments, that's probably my favorite. So Max
Hmm.
kicking that goal, and then all the players just running in, and it was so weird because there was no crowd, so there was just like dead
Hmm.
silence.
Yep.
And but yeah, it was just, I was crying. It was just so emotional. It was just such a, yeah, that's probably my favorite D's moment. So
Yep. Nope. There's every moment as a fan is always funny in those ones that you'll almost never forget. Like
yeah,
where you were. Like there's moments
absolutely.
as fans like they will forever be plastered into the back of your head of what you
Yep.
were doing, how you reacted, everything like
Yes.
that. I've had some fun moments with that, so I know that those are the fun feelings on that. So
Yep.
I hate to be a downer. I don't want to go. I don't want it, but I'm going to. We'll go to
Okay.
a little bit more recent. We've just finished the men's we finished the men's season.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this last year's men's season because boy, was it a roller coaster.
Oh yeah. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, it was full of turbulence, wasn't it? Yeah, there was obviously a lot going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about. Obviously, all the stuff with Christian Petrarca, and what he went through, and rightly so, having such a terrifying injury, and you know, having to come back and try and work through all of that, how that must have felt to come back into, a contact sport again that, almost killed him.
Hmm.
Let's not, beat around the bush. Like, it's
Can't
a
sugarcoat it on
significant,
that. That's the truth.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So for him to even come back and play was huge. And then obviously all the stuff with Clayton Oliver, and there was just so much you could see in their faces something was wrong. Like I said, we're D supporters, we're used to things going wrong with our club, but last year was just such a strange year. And obviously, then, Simon Goodwin getting the sack, you never want to see a coach lose his job. And that was, the way that all happened. And oh, there was just so many little, bumps in the road. So, and I think the last couple of years we've been playing under this duress, like, obviously the 21 premiership, and then going out in straight sets the two following years after that. And, that's going to leave a lasting effect on the players as well. So I think there's a lot under the surface that we don't see. But yeah, just a lot, with the emergence of the younger players has been exciting to watch. But yeah, there
Hmm.
was certainly some tough pills to swallow at the end of the season.
Yeah, it was a very frustrating season because at
Yeah.
the start of the year you couldn't beat it, you couldn't beat a wet paper sack with a hole in it. It seemed
Yeah.
like you just could not beat anybody.
Yep.
And then you kind of found some form in the mid-season.
Yep.
Causey Pickett absolutely caught fire. I mean, the sun
Oh
was
yeah.
jealous. The sun was jealous of how glowing Causey Pickett was there for a bit because
Yeah.
it
Yep.
was insane. And it was just like they ran out of steam at the wrong possible
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
It was one of those years where it was like I felt for the D supporters because you kind of again you had that really roller coaster. You had some really down moments to start the year, and then really good run of form. You played some really
Yeah.
good games. You got some wins.
We
You
beat
had some
Brisbane.
people. Yep. You had some people thinking, can the D's find their way into a final
Yeah.
spot after
Yep.
starting off as not as well as they did? And it just
Mm.
kind of petered out at the it kind of petered out at the
Yeah.
end. You had started having injury issues too. Your
Yeah.
back line kind of went
Well,
wonky there at
this
the
is
end with
true.
injury
Yep.
and everything like that. So
Yeah.
no, I'm 100% with you. It was emotional. And then my next question is your thoughts on your thoughts on the off season because I mean really, when it comes to it, Petrarca, bye bye, you're off to the Gold Coast.
Mm.
Clayton Oliver,
Mm.
bye bye, you're off to you're off to GWS. The
Yeah.
one good
Yep.
thing though is you did get Causey Pickett signed for the future, which I think a lot of
Yes.
these fans, it's a future talented player there that you keep in these colors, which I think
Yep.
is
For sure.
fantastic for the club
Yep.
because of
Yep.
all the talk about will he go back to the West? Will he go back to the West and go to
Mm.
Fremantle where potentially he could join the Dockers with their little rise when it comes to popularity among some of the league's elite. So
Mm.
your thoughts on their offseason again, like I said, two stalwarts of the club, Petrarca and Oliver, now in
Oh,
different
look.
colors.
I won't lie. That was that they losing both of them really hurt. Um, I would never have thought, we would lose our Norm Smith medalist and, Clayton Oliver, probably one of the best midfielders the club has seen over the years. Um, and I guess it was very difficult to watch that happen.
Mhm.
Um, but then, I always think, look, no one's bigger than the club. And if there are genuine issues there that can't be resolved, then maybe a fresh start is what's needed for both of them in terms of finding a new club and us, finding new players who want to play a certain way. And again, we don't hear a lot about what happens behind closed doors. We don't know the full extent of what actually has gone on. The media love to, stir up rumors, and then you've got obviously social media. Someone runs with something, you don't know what's real and what's not.
Yep.
So unless you're speaking directly to the players, and even then they're going to speak to the media in cliches and not give you anything,
Whitewash
you
the hell
know,
out of it.
yeah, yeah, that's right. So it was like, and I probably speak for a lot of D supporters. That was really hard to watch Christian Petrarca leave. It was hard to watch Clayton Oliver leave. And, you know, but again, no one's bigger than the club. So, I mean, I was, devastated all those years ago when Melbourne got rid of Shane Woden. Like I thought my heart was going to break that day when, and that was against what he wanted as well. But we forget that this is what they do day in, day out, these footy clubs.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, but going back to being emotional about the club, you get attached to these players. And it's been very hard. And obviously, like I said, it's hard to know what's real and what to pay attention to. And I think in the off season, the media are looking for so much content to fill the space because there's no games being played. So it's hard to know, what's actually real, what's actually happening. Was he
Mhm.
summoned to the club? Like, was he spoken to in a rough voice? Or you don't know,
Yep.
what's happened in the meeting. You don't know what was said to him. Or so, it's I think when you lose your big names, it's very hard to accept. But I think you've always got to keep looking forward and just trust that the club know what they're doing. I think
Mhm.
so. Hopefully, that's the case.
Yeah, there's far too much media speaking in absolutions when many of them have absolutely no clue, or they're getting
Exactly.
second, third, fourth hand
Yes.
information. It's like the old school kids game telephone. the story's
Yeah,
going to change with each adoration of,
exactly.
of it being told. So
That's
yeah,
right.
I'm 100% with you. It was very it's sad, but I think the club also is that letting Simon Goodwin go, um,
Mm,
bringing in a new coach. We don't know. Maybe it could have even been one of those situations where with Petrarca, it was the damage between the club and him. And with Oliver, it purely could have been, well, the new coach may not see him as the elite
yes,
midfielder that he is. They
that's
think that they
true.
can maybe get a little bit more out of him than trying to keep him. So that's why they shift him to get assets for the future. So
Exactly.
we'll never 100% know because never, but
That's right.
nobody's going to tell you the 100% truth because clubs will
Exactly
lie
right.
their tails
Yep.
off
Yep.
to make sure that they keep some anonymity in many situations. So
Yep.
I always look at it like this is that when it happens, we know that's the truth. We
Yeah.
don't know why, and we probably may never
Probably
know
never know. Yeah.
why Clayton Oliver wanted out. Was it the coach? Was it
Yep.
Clayton? Was it the club?
Mm,
Was
mm,
it this? Was it purely GWS put an offer down that Melbourne thought they're not going to get a better one? We'll give it
that's
up.
right.
I don't.
Yeah.
I personally, what they got was a bag of chips for him compared
Yeah.
to his value, but again,
Yes.
I think his value has decreased a little bit because he's another year older. There's
Mm,
off-field issues that some clubs do not want to deal with. Maybe him
exactly.
going to Sydney may be good because he's out of the fishbowl of Melbourne. He doesn't have the
True.
Melbourne media
Yep.
breathing down his
Yep.
neck. It's the
Yep.
same thing with Petrarca. In some situations, I think it's a little bit Buddy Franklin moving to Sydney, stuff like sometimes a player moving from the fishbowl of Melbourne to an interstate club
Mm,
sometimes is actually better for their career
yeah,
because they're not
exactly.
sitting there. They got the fishbowl of every single
That's
Melbourne
right.
media staring
Yeah,
at them like a goldfish circling a
that's
bowl.
right.
Well,
They're not being scrutinized, everything they do. So,
exactly. So, and
yeah,
and again, we'll never know. And
that's
again,
right.
as sad as I am to see them leave because of what they've done for the club. I mean, 2021
Mm,
Premiership is nothing to sniff at as long as the D's had not
yeah,
been to a Premiership. You kind of want to go. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the
yeah,
assets that you'll bring in. Best of luck, unless you're playing us. And so
yeah, yeah,
is
that's
how we
right.
kind of handle it. So
Right.
we'll,
Yes,
we'll
this is true.
we'll go on. Okay, we've had our nostalgia moments when it comes to it. And I sent this question. I sent this, and again, I want to change it, but then I kind of like how I explain this is that what are your expectations for next year? Now, for me, I don't like saying expectations because then that means I
Yeah,
expect something to happen.
of
And I
course.
know footy is nuts. You will never, ever, ever know when somebody's going to go down with an ACL tear, where some player's going to
Yes.
have the season of a lifetime. I mean,
Yep.
Messiah Wangini Miller went from a good halfback flanker
Yeah.
to now being one of the best in the competition.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because he kicked the winning goal against
yeah,
us.
sorry, I'm
That's
not
okay.
trying, and not trying to bring up
I'm not
bad
upset
memories.
about it
I'm
anymore.
sorry
So
about that. No, but I mean that's kind of the well, Kazi Pickett is a perfect one. I mean, if
yeah.
you talking at
Yep.
the start of the season, he was a good player, serviceable.
Hmm.
Man, did he absolutely go in fuego during the season, and I think really help out his contract when it comes to it. So,
Yes.
what are your
Yep.
thoughts on next year again? As you said, some departures, some bring-ins.
Yes.
The team got a little bit younger. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm the same as you. We don't have expectations as such because that means you've got to have, you've got to get to those expectations. And if they don't get met, you'll be disappointed. So
Yep.
I think when you have a new coach starting, I think as a supporter, you just want to see some effort. You just want to see the players, maybe enjoying their footy again and, actually starting to see some team cohesion and things like that. It's every supporter goes into a new season wildly optimistic, about what their team can achieve each season. If you don't, then you're doing it wrong. So everyone thinks their team's going to be the one who's going to win the premiership. So, but I think recruiting Stephen King from Geelong, I mean, everyone, whether you're a Geelong supporter or not, you've got to admire how they go about
Yep.
winning. They win a lot, and it's sickening as an opposition supporter to watch, but
But
you've got to
you respect
admire,
it though. As much as you
of course,
hate it, you respect
absolutely.
it because they're doing something they're not supposed to do. And especially if
That's
it's a
right.
they don't get top level draft picks because they're winning. Because they're winning, they have to be
Exactly.
good at drafting later in the draft. So
That's
you
right.
respect them but it
Yes.
annoys the crap out of you because you
Yes.
have to respect them.
That's it. Perfectly said. Yes, it does. It annoys so much. But to be able to get someone who's been in the Geelong machine for a number of years and bring him over to the D's, I think Stephen King has a lot of potential in terms of what he can bring to our. Like we've got a really good young list. So
Hmm.
I think being optimistic is normal. And I just hope that, I mean, I'm not saying that we can win the premiership. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't knock it back if we did, but I think you've got to be realistic in what you're looking at too. I mean, they're going to be learning a new system, how to interact with the coach and what the coach wants from them and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's still got to play out, but it's exciting to think that we've got Stephen King and he's also brought over Maddie Scarlett as well. I think yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens. I think we'll all just be a bit nervous, D supporters, just to see if they've done the right thing in bringing in a new coach rather than hanging on to Simon Goodwin for another year. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, we'll just keep it nice and calm for now. So we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
I know it. I know it's an overly used one in Australia, but just you want to see green shoots this year.
Yes, yeah,
There's no expectations. I mean, if you make finals, yay, that's an accomplishment there,
yeah,
because
yeah.
new system, new players,
That's
a
right.
change of the old guard, like with some of the players moving out, you some new heads maybe
Yeah,
moving into
yep,
the midfield.
exactly.
There's some things to look at this year when it comes to it. But the
Yeah,
biggest thing will be is, do you see green shoots?
yeah,
I think most people would say is that if you make finals, that's a bonus this year because
absolutely.
of all the changes that you're going to have to go through. But you never
Yeah,
know. Sometimes you find it and you catch fire at just the right time. So again,
yeah, exactly.
wishing you all the best when it comes to
Oh,
with
thank
the
you.
D's. Purely on that, I respect everybody when it comes to, I have friends in every single club. So there are times
Yeah,
we can banter, but in the long run, I wish people success. The only time I don't is when
yeah.
you play the Swans, and just kidding.
Okay. All right. I'll see
The
how we
fun
can. Yeah,
it's
we'll
the
see
fun
how we'll go.
banter when it comes to it. So I want to have I want to have a little bit of fun. This next one is, and maybe this is a little bit of the Americans, is that we love our fantasy sports.
Oh,
We love
yes.
talking about is making the moves, is like the general manager or the list manager over there. So I'm gonna have a little bit of fun.
Yep.
I'm gonna install you as the list manager for one day.
Oh,
All of
okay.
the 17 clubs are free. You can go in and go yoink and grab one player from any of the other 17 clubs and put them in the D's for this season
Ooh.
to help them maybe make finals, maybe push for a flag. Who would that one
Mm.
player you would bring to the D's and why?
Well, I guess I always thought that we needed a full forward, coming from a traditional background of watching the big full forwards as I grew
Hmm.
up watching the game and stuff. So I always used to think, oh, Charlie Curnow would be a really good addition at the
Hmm.
D's, takes lots of marks, kicks lots of goals. Let's face it, you know, we need goals to win games. So, but I guess the more that the season went on, we've got Cozzy Pickett and we've got, these younger players, Harvey Langford, and, if JVR can, build up his confidence and if he becomes a really good forward as well. So we do have options. So maybe a full forward is not what we need, but I have to say, when all those rumours were going around about when Christian was going to the Gold Coast, and they were talking about Bailey Humphrey coming to the D's, and I thought, well, that sounds pretty good. So I think if he ends up coming to the D's, that'd be amazing. If he could just bring Noah Anderson with him, that'd be even better. I'd be really happy with that. So, a 2-for-1 kind of deal would be probably what I'd like to see. But yeah, that's a really hard question actually, because there is so many good
Hmm.
players out there. It's yeah, but you've got to, I guess, in any team, you've got to have the right chemistry. You might pick a Nick Dacos from Collingwood to come over, but without the players that he's currently got around him, would he still be the player that he is at another club? I'm sure he would be because he's just got talent coming out of every, you know. But
Hmm.
yeah, it would be interesting to see how that works in terms of whether they could just be isolated on their own or whether they rely on the chemistry that they've currently got in their team. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a pretty tricky question, that one.
it's always fun because there's some people that they want to grab the big name, like Marcus
Yeah.
Bontempelli. I can't tell you how
Oh,
many people grab him, and
I
I sit
love
there and I
him.
go, that's great, but do you have a need for it? Like I guess
Yeah.
maybe it's my coaching mind a little bit. Is that I sit
Yeah.
here and I go like I remember talking with my Adelaide Crow supporter, and she said something, and I said normally I don't do this, but I'm going to tell you who I think personally. And I think she was surprised because I took it as where I think they had a need, where they had a hole. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of those that sometimes you get fans that literally they do kind of think about like where is our biggest weakness when it comes to a
Yeah.
team.
Yep.
And Melbourne's one of those where it's like it's weird because some of the weaknesses that I see, it's more is because I'm not sure what they have when it comes to the youth that are coming up. Like in the midfield, you say Noah Anderson. That's fantastic. But what do you have when it comes to the depth of it? Because I know you've got Jake Viney's still there. I mean, it's hard as a
Mm,
cat's head, so I don't mind him.
yes.
But
Yes.
do you have that Nick Dacos? Do you have that breakthrough player, the Chad Warners of the world,
Yeah.
the guy that can get the footy out of the center, the Andy Brashaws of
Yeah.
Fremantle, the
Yep.
Tom Greens of GWS's,
Yeah.
the guy that can break through because the two guys that really did it for you previously, in Petrarca and Oliver, are now no
That's
longer there.
that's right.
So it's where do you think your hole is? Is your hole on the halfback flank, or where is Christian Salem still the same guy? Is Trent Rivers still going to
Yeah.
be as effective off the halfback flank that he has
Mm,
been? What's your situation now that Stephen May is gone? Do you need a fullback? Do you need a Cal Wilkie to
yeah,
step in?
that's right.
Would you need a Cal Wilkie to step in to be that intercepting defender? Would you prefer a
Mm,
Tommy Barrass back there who can
yeah.
intercept and get you going the other way? So it really does depend on what you see as your weakness
Yeah, true.
and
Yeah.
like I've said I said it for I said it for Sydney when it comes to it. I said we get Charlie Curnow, but personally I thought our biggest weakness is fullback because I think Tommy McCartney is a great fullback, but with his
Yeah.
concussion issues, I want a little bit
That's
of
right.
safety. So
Yes.
I would have brought in Cal Wilkie instead of Charlie Curnow personally. But
Yeah.
that's me personally because
Yeah.
I
Of
think
course.
defense will lead to offense the way the sport
Absolutely.
footy
Yes. I yeah.
personally with their kicking and their ability to move from front to back for back to front. I would have preferred a Cal Wilkie personally,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
Charlie Curnow
Yeah.
is the way they went. So
Yeah.
it's the fun part about that question because I don't think there is a wrong answer, but it
Yeah.
does kind of show you where when I ask the question, where their thoughts are. Is their thoughts on just
Yep.
grabbing the big name, or do they try to
Mm,
fill what they deem is the weakness in their team? So it's a lot of fun.
yeah.
I love that question. So I'm going to move on because a lot of people know me. I am a huge supporter of the AFLW. I
Yep.
love my coverage of it because I think it gives them coverage that I don't think they get as much of on the PR. So
Yeah.
I know you keep track of the W. So your thoughts on the D season this year, because unlike the men's, this was a very successful season for the
Yeah.
D's when it comes to home and away. Finals,
Yeah.
maybe unfortunately not as much. So
Yeah.
your thoughts on the D season this year? Again, another solid season for the D's. Again, the women's program is fantastic.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? And it's as a D supporter, knowing that, the D's girls were one of the foundation clubs as well, and the competition has sort of come, full circle now to have all of the teams, I think is phenomenal. And I think it's lovely to have, so many girls playing the sport, and even the younger, like it's had such a ripple effect through suburban footy. My daughter's playing in her second season this year. So there's so many girls playing the game now. I mean, this was unheard of when I grew up as a
Mhm.
as a young girl. So the fact that it's come such a long way, I think the program itself is wonderful. And I really, like you said before, going to a game, it's a really safe space. Everyone's so encouraging, and even the players are just so grateful. We went to see Melbourne play Brisbane up here at Springfield, and my daughter got selected to be the mascot to run out with the girls. The club were outstanding. She got a full kit. I told them that her favorite player was Taylor Harris, and they said that they could arrange for her to run out with Taylor as well. So she got to be, and because Taylor wears the same number as my daughter, so there was that connection already. So she was just over the moon that she got to do that and have this experience. I mean, she's living her best life,
Hmm.
Anyway, but even after the game, the girls played so well. And then after the game, they had lost the game at Brisbane's home ground, but they all still came over to the fence, met all the supporters, signed autographs, spoke to all the kids. And Taylor was there speaking to my daughter, and they got photos together. And just the way that they were all so grateful. They all, thanks for coming out. We really appreciate your support. And I'm not saying that the men don't do that. Of course they do, but the women just, it feels so organic. It's just, they
Hmm.
really are genuinely grateful to have that support. And I think coming from that kind of viewpoint, it's just lovely. And I hope the game just keeps continuing to grow. And I hope that the girls don't lose that, personal touch with the supporters. But yeah, it's just been super exciting to watch the girls. And yeah, we won't talk about the end of the season, but they've been thereabouts, for most seasons. So they're doing so well, and it's just yeah, I just love that the gratitude that they have, the energy around that is just so lovely. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. The interactions that I've had even on social media with many of the women's players
yeah,
is there's a genuine there's a genuine thankfulness that they have to
yes,
the supporters for coming out
yep,
and wanting autographs and many
yeah,
times I think they're a little bit overwhelmed that
yeah,
so many fans want autographs or they want to get pictures, they want to know, like I've even seen almost with the Taylor Swift thing is the friendship bracelets. I've seen
yes,
even that, and
yes,
the requesting for boots. I know Hosko on her podcast is talking about. She's like, I can't give my boots away. They're specially made for, like,
yeah,
and I absolutely love it. But there's this genuine thankfulness that comes out of the players that you see it all the time, and whether in social media and everything like that. I, they play they play with a passion that I think is a little bit
yeah,
different than the men's. The men's has almost become this machine. It
yes,
is almost more about the money than it is about the
yep,
fan experience. And
yeah,
maybe it's also a little bit because of the women are mostly playing in suburban grounds, so they're much closer to the fans. They're getting more of
that's
an
true.
experience when it comes to it with the
Yeah,
fans. That I
yep,
think that's a little bit too is that they really see the appreciation of these fans that are
mm,
out there. But I will say this, and I've continued to say this, I think the AFL is really missing a huge point here because I think the women's is really where the growth is. If you look at
yeah,
men's, I don't think the men's game is growing as much as the women's because think about it, 2017, when the AFLW started, from then, if you look at the growth of youth women's football
yep,
throughout the country of Australia, it is ridiculous. Like, I
yeah,
remember they said, I think they were focusing on Geelong, and that
mm-hmm,
when 2017 happened, the Geelong Footy League went from like six women's teams total in the entire competition to like 50 in the span of a year.
wow,
That
yeah,
was there
right,
was like a 600% growth. And then here the fun fact that I remember people saying this is that with women's footy's growth in Queensland because of the success of the Lions, is
mm,
that there are now more women playing footy in Queensland than in South Australia. Like
wow,
it is getting nuts to the point where Queens, like, I mean, and you look at it now, like look at the Suns Academy, look at the Lions Academy when it comes to it.
mm,
Look at how many quality players are coming into the competition
yep,
now that
yep,
are from non-football states. It is
yeah,
fantastic. New
yep,
South Wales is starting to see it. I mean, considering you had two players in the top 10 this year from New
mm,
South Wales, a
yeah,
rugby league heartland
that's
has
right,
two of the best players in the country
yeah,
drafted in the top 10. Now, is that a little bit of GWS's local? They draft a local kid, girl, even though she was from the Swans Academy? We don't know. But
mm,
it just shows you that the sport is changing. And I think the women's
yes,
game is part of that growth is that you're starting to see non-football states become heartlands of footy talent, and I
yeah,
absolutely
yep,
love it. So
yeah,
we'll
I
go to
love
this
that too, yeah.
since I asked it for the men's, I will ask it for the women's. Do you have a favorite player on the women's list?
Oh, look, I think I love Kate Hoare. I just think
How can
she
you not?
I know, right? I know. Like she just has everything going for her. Like
Yep.
she's just so again another inspiring leader, in the club.
Yep.
She's just got it all and she's just so great to watch. And going to a live game this year to see the girls, like they none of them ever shirk a contest, they're always in there 100%, it's and the courage that these girls show every week is incredible. But yeah, it's hard to go past Kate. And I think
Yep.
yeah, I think the game's in good hands if she's, one of the leaders of the competition. So yeah, my daughter's a big fan of Taylor Harris, as I said. We love her as well. And she, to be able to kick like her would just be phenomenal, wouldn't it,
Yeah.
really? I think a
Yeah.
lot of the men
She's
could learn something from her.
Yeah,
So,
Taylor's the rock star. She's
oh
the full
yeah.
she's the full forward. She's the plugger Lockets.
Yeah.
She's that go-to full forward that everybody wants to watch.
Yep.
Kate Hoare's another one. Love Taylor Hanks. Taylor Hanks is
Yeah.
incredible. I love Shelley Heath. I know
Yeah.
she doesn't get much plaudits because she does the grunt work a little bit.
Yep.
Absolutely
Yep.
love her to death. She's fantastic. You've had some growth. I love one of your new draft picks, Molly O'Hare. I've watched her for a couple of
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
out in WA. She was one of those I really wanted at Sydney. If
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, you ask anybody, I said it from the beginning. There were two girls I wanted from the draft this last year going into this season was Zippy Fish and Molly
Yep.
O'Hare, and both were WA products. I watched both of them, thought both of them were fantastic, two of my favorite players in the country. And when Zippy fell to us, still to this day, I cannot believe that we got Zippy.
Yeah.
Like because personally, I thought she was the second best girl in the entire country. Personally, I thought
Mm.
she was behind Centra all year long. Thought she was too hard to pass up because she's Mon Conti 2.0. Um,
Yes.
she so elusive, so good with footy in hand, never gets rattled, always seems so
Mm.
cool with it. So when Sydney drafted her, I remember telling every Swans fans, I said, you have no idea what a steal we just got. I said, you have
Mm.
no idea. And then to see her win Rising Star this year, and for so many of my Swan supporter friends to reach, go, Donnie, how? How? I said, easy. I said, I've been watching this girl for 2 years out in the WAFL. I said,
Yeah.
I knew what talent she had 2 years ago. I said, because I watched
Yeah.
her in a grand final at 16 go absolutely bonkers. I mean, it was nuts how good this girl was at 16. Molly O'Hare was the same thing with Sal Fremantle. I thought she's long, she's tall, she's athletic, she's super
Yep.
skilled. It took her a little bit to grow into the D's this year. She didn't
Yeah.
have the breakout season like Zippy where everybody talked her name, but Molly was solid. So I
Yeah.
think
She's pretty consistent. Yeah.
she'll grow into it. I think she'll
Yeah.
impact as she grows older. She gets a little bit more mature
Mm.
too. She was a little bit lankier, so I think she needs to grow into her body a little bit. But when she does, she's going to be a good one for you at the D's for sure, especially with
Yeah. Awesome.
when it
Yeah.
comes to it. Cannot wait. So let's have some fun. As I always like to end with a couple of questions
Yep.
because as I've told many people, I have not been to Australia. It is on my bucket list. I'm gonna get
Oh,
there. I know it's
you'll
gonna
have
happen.
to come down. Yes,
So here's
definitely.
so here's the thing. I'm doing research. So I want to make sure that when I go, I have the best possible experience. So
Okay.
I'm an American, and unfortunately, one of our biggest things is we love food. So when you go to the footy, do you have a go-to food at the football?
Oh, look, it's hard to go past a pie and a cold beer at the footy.
Mhm.
You've got to, that's tradition, really. The
Yeah.
hot pie, burn your mouth and have your cold beer to go with it. So,
Burn your mouth with the pie and then cool
yep,
it down with a swig.
exactly.
No,
Yep.
100 that is one of the more that and hot chips. Hot chips tend to be are the two that are the most popular when it
Okay.
comes to it.
Yeah.
So we'll go to this. I love this because I want the best fan experience, and one of the fan experiences is the seat, is the place to watch
Hmm.
the football. So
Yep.
for you, where do you think is the ideal place to sit to go to watch the footy?
Oh, look, I think with Aussie rules, like I've said, there's always something happening everywhere on the ground. And I don't think there's actually a bad spot to be in. I think we had Lions memberships many years ago because it was the only avenue we had to watch live football. So, and we had front row. seats, and being front row was great. You could see everything, but I think even if you were up on the next level, because then you've got the aerial view of the whole ground, you can see what's happening either end and on either wing. Or so I don't know if there's a favorite. I do like sitting, behind the goals when the D's come up to Brisbane, because all the D's people sit together, and we've got to stick together. Um, but being in the minority is a bit tricky. But I really don't think there's a bad spot that you could sit at an Aussie rules game. So um, yeah, if you like being close up to the action, it's pretty good to be able to hear, the slapping of the football, or as they try to tackle each other, and you hear the slap on the arm and things like that. So that's cool. But then being up higher, you can just see so much of the ground too. So yeah, I think any seat you're gonna be fine. So
Mhm. Nah, I agree with you, especially the way some of the stadiums are built, even the one super up high. It's like you
oh
get the
yeah,
visual of everything. They may look like ants, but
of
you can
course.
still see everything.
That's right.
So, and then the last question that I have in every episode, again, I'm building almost a playlist of this, and I think this is fantastic
Okay.
because I love this because you never know what you're going to get on this. Favorite game of football you have ever seen, whether it's live, whether it's on the telly, whether it was women's, whether it's men's, does not matter. Favorite game of football you have ever seen.
Look, it's hard to not go past the 2021 Premiership game. Something I never thought I would see in my lifetime is a Premiership. And to be able to, even though I did try to get into Western Australia and got rejected, but being able to watch it and see my team that I've barracked for a number of years win a Premiership, it was just words can't explain how that felt. By halftime, I thought the game was over. I thought we were done. My brother put on a big function at his house, and they had balloons and everything. And by halftime, I thought it was done. And I said to my daughter, "We're going home. That's it. I'm going to go and, hide under the covers somewhere." And she said, "No, just stay. Let's just stay and see what happens." And I'm so glad that I did, because that was just it was unbelievable, that game. Yeah, something etched in my memory. And for me, like I said, to see one in my lifetime, for my children to see one in their lifetime, is just something I'll never forget. And then the following season, we had a function at the Gold Coast when they came up and played in round three, I think, and they brought the Premiership Cup with them, and I got to hold the Premiership Cup, like that's in my photo. And honestly, that is one of the best days of my life. It was just being in the same room as the Premiership Cup, to be able to touch it and feel it. And yeah, it was incredible. So yeah, that's definitely top of the list. So
And to have
yeah.
the D's name and the year etched into it.
Yes,
That's the part
exactly.
that's the best is not
That's
only the
right.
Premiership Cup, but you get the Premiership Cup that you actually won.
Yes,
I think that
yes.
makes it even more special on that. So,
Yeah,
well,
it was
Amanda,
amazing.
that is it. That is all of my questions. A fantastic conversation here. Again, I appreciate you coming on. Again, for privacy reasons is the reason that she's not on the video for those
Yes,
of you that are watching the
thank
YouTube
you.
video,
Yeah,
but I still enjoyed this conversation. It was
me
fantastic to
too,
sit
very much.
down and to
Yes.
chat with you. So I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
No, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, keep track. More episodes still to come. So many fantastic female fans to sit down and have a chat with. You're going to enjoy some of the stories and some of these incredible individuals that I have hopping on the podcast. Cannot wait to share those with you. So that is going to do it for this episode, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.